All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good friend Lisa Graves. Lisa is the executive director for the Center for Media and Democracy, which you can find at prwatch.org. You can also follow her on Twitter at the Lisa Graves. Lisa, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Matt, it's always a joy to be on your show.
All right, so Lisa, for starters, we were just talking about this a second ago, but it was great seeing you in Madison, Wisconsin this last weekend. You talked at the Living Liberally conference. We all really appreciated that. You discussed Center for Media and Democracy's work on ALEC Exposed, which was your last giant project, but you guys actually are doing a amazing new project called Outsourcing America Exposed. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Well, this is a new project that we launched this past week, and when we were doing our work in investigating ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, one of the things we discovered was the extent of this privatization agenda, an agenda to really privatize our public services, privatize our public institutions. It's really been a hostile takeover of our schools, our roads, prisons, drinking water, and even government itself. And so having seen the model bills that were secretly voted on by some of the biggest corporations in the world, and let me just stress world, as in foreign companies that are interested in privatizing American institutions, we felt, obligated to proceed with a new expose called Outsourcing America Exposed.
Amazing. So initially, there's something that's going to be an ongoing project here. How did you guys actually go about uncovering this information? Because I know when you guys did ALEC Exposed, it was like so much legwork of actually digging through all of these documents and to actually reading these bills that went on state by state. How are you guys actually digging up this information?
Well, one of the things that happened was when we've been doing open records requests for what ALEC is up to, and through that work, we've obtained task force documents where ALEC corporations vote as equals on these model bills before they were introduced. And one of the things we discovered was that a company called Macquarie, or Macquarie, was a task force leader of a subcommittee in ALEC devoted to privatizing our infrastructure. And I thought, I'd never heard of this company. And we looked it up, and it was an Australian firm that is actually the Australian version of Goldman Sachs.
Wow.
We were shocked that our American representatives from states across the country, these right-wing politicians that are part of ALEC, would dare to sit around a table at a fancy resort and actually give an equal vote to the representatives of a foreign company. Now, that company has, U.S. affiliates, but at the end of the day, what it is, it's a leveraging firm, basically, to profitize our roads. And it turns out they're also interested in our water. When we looked more closely at them, we discovered that they were trying to acquire water resources in Washington State and otherwise. I don't know on what planet American politicians would think that it's a good idea to privatize our most precious resources to a foreign company. But that planet is apparently Planet ALEC. And so we started looking into other areas of privatization, not just roads and parking meters like with Chicago, but the school privatization effort that we've been covering as well, the prison privatization effort that we've been covering as well, and other aspects of privatization. And we were shocked by what we found. We discovered that in some states, there are some cities, such as in Georgia, where whole cities are outsourced to a private company. The operation of a whole city.
Hold on. So we're going to take that one again. So you're saying that there are whole cities, one specifically in Georgia, that you can say that the city itself has been outsourced. Describe that. What exactly does that mean?
Well, that's a teaser because we have that report coming soon. But
give us a little hint here. Come on.
Well, it's quite stunning. It's basically some towns. There are a couple towns in Georgia where the whole governance of the city is run by a private company. We couldn't believe it, actually, and one of them was one of these efforts in particular failed. I'm not surprised why, but the idea that Americans would somehow outsource democracy, basically the most basic aspect of who's running your public institutions, your civic institutions, and have that be a company is astonishing to me. And this is happening without the attention of the major newspapers or the TV news. This outsourcing craze that is going across America is happening really behind the scenes. And so we've taken a look at a number of different industries, and we started a new profile on some of the prison corporations that have gotten their hands on our tax dollars and privatized significant portions of the prisons, which I can talk about a little bit more. But we've also looked at the outsourcing of providing food to our school children, in addition to privatizing our schools and other issues. And so that's what we launched this past week, was a story about how kids' lunches basically have been privatized to a foreign multinational company.
I'm talking to Lisa Graves from the Center for Media and Democracy on about their new project, Outsourcing America Exposed. You can find it at outsourcingamericaexposed.org. All right, we'll hold the Georgetown for a later interview, because I know we gotta. Yeah, this is because you're actually exposing. You've actually found that the firms that are doing this, there's actually 12 of them, and that are doing the majority of this work of outsourcing our very country, our very democracy. Let's talk a little bit about a couple that you've already published, and the first one is Sodexo. So who is Sodexo, and what exactly are they doing?
Well, Sodexo is a foreign multinational. It's based in France. It has a lot of businesses, but one of its businesses is providing food services to our public schools, K through 12 schools, as well as some college campuses, and also some parts of the U.S. military. It reports that it gets $8.8 billion with a B, dollars in revenue from operations in North America, and it is really the primary driver of outsourcing food services in our country. So when you used to think about public schools lunch, perhaps maybe you weren't entirely enamored of it back in the day, but often it was, those grilled cheese sandwiches and pizzas were made there by the lunch ladies. They were made, by your local workers there in the schools. Now, in many school districts across the country, this whole process has been outsourced basically to Sodexo, and it hires the people. Has industrial food brought in. You don't have as much local food going for kids' lunches, and you see a lot of cost cutting that affects the quality of the food our kids are served. And Sodexo has even been investigated by the state of New York for taking huge discount coupons for the enormous amounts it spends on industrial food, and then pocketing those savings and not passing them on to taxpayers. And so they have been investigated for this type of taxpayer fraud, and had to settle some of those claims in New York, and other parts are under investigation. But the money, in some ways, is the least of it, because what we've seen is that in a number of these sort of outsourced schools, there have been outbreaks of E. coli and other illnesses in Sodexo food service provision, including even for the Marines. There was a major outbreak for our U.S. Marines who need to be prepared for whatever they need to be prepared for.